Welcome to another session of our series entitled Get to Know Your Lord. Get to know your Lord. And why is it so important for us to get to know your Lord? Let's ask the people here who can tell us, why is it important to get to know your Lord? Why is it important to get to know Allah? Can anyone answer that question here for us? Why is it so important for us as Muslims to get to know Allah? Can anyone answer that? Why is it important? Or maybe you think it's not important. Do you guys think it's not important to get to know Allah? What do you think? Anyone would like to share? Go ahead, Zarina.
When you get to know Allah, you realize His majesty, His greatness, and you're not as susceptible to disbelief or, shirk.
Okay, that's one reason. That's a good reason. Anyone else? What's another reason to get to know your Lord? Anyone else with any other reasons as to why it's good, or maybe you think it's not good to get to know Him? Anyone else? Go ahead.
So that you can become closer to Him?
Exactly. That's the number one reason. Why is it important to get to know Allah? I mean, you should want to get close to Him, because getting close to Him is how we earn paradise, subhanallah. And the way to get to know Allah is by, how can we get to know Allah? Anyone can answer that? How do we get to know Him? What do we do to get to know Him? Or how can I learn about Him? How can I better learn about Allah? Anyone?
By joining this classes to learn about His 99 names and how merciful He is, knowing all those stuff get to help us know Allah and stuff like that.
Good job. By educating yourself about Him, learning His names and His attributes. The more that we learn and understand the meaning of His names and His attributes, the better our relationship develops, with Him. And the less likely we will become to disobey Him and or to do what's not pleasing to Him. So for these reasons and many, many, many more, it's imperative that we as Muslims get to know Allah. And like we said, Allah tells us about Himself through the revelations. The revelations for us are the Quran and the Sunnah, the Quran and the Hadiths, not fatwas. And I want every Muslim to understand, because there's a lot of uneducated Muslims out there who don't understand that our way of life is based on the Quran and the Hadiths. It's not based on opinion. Fatwa are simply opinions that people put out. Okay, you want to learn the deen, you don't learn what people's opinions are. You learn what Allah said the deen consists of and what the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam taught us. And if there's issues that we're confused about, and a lot of people ask that, like, for example, that issue of masturbation, that a lot of people ask about, is it haram? Issues that people are confused about, look to see what the companions had to say, what the companions had to say about it. But subhanallah, the sources of Islam are the Quran and the Sunnah. And again, what makes a person adhere more to the Quran and Sunnah is their faith, their belief in Allah. And what strengthens their belief in Allah is getting to know Him. So we talked about how when it comes to learning the names and attributes of Allah, we have to learn them the way the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam taught them to us. We have to have the understanding as to what those names mean that the companions had. And we talked about how today, in this day and era, unfortunately, most Muslims do not understand the meaning of Allah's names. They don't have the understanding of the companions. They add to the meaning of Allah's names or take away from it. So it brings us to the topic of today. How did we get here? How did we deviate away from understanding Allah's names like the companions did? Well, there's many factors that contributed to that. And let's put the PowerPoint up on the screen. for today so we can see, because that's what we're going to be focusing on today. What are some of the influences that contributed to us deviating away from understanding the names the way that the companions did? So let's put the PowerPoint up here on the screen. Everybody should be able to see. And this is session 25. Session 25 in this wonderful series. And before I go into some of the causes, let's give a brief review of the beginning of deviation. As we discussed, the first Muslim known to deny predestination was an Iraqi convert from Christianity. His name was Abu Yunus al-Ansari. Okay, he later reverted back to Christianity, but not before infecting one of his students, Mabad al-Juhani. And Mabad began to spread the teachings, of that denied the qadr of Allah. And he continued to do that until he was eventually executed. Like I told you guys, in a Muslim state, if we were living in a Muslim state, they'd execute you, for not having a correct belief system. And during that time, the younger companions of the Prophet who were alive, like Ibn Umar and Abdullah ibn Abi Afwa, they advised the people after Mabad was executed, they advised the people to not attend his funeral, because he was killed and he died in a state of disbelief, because he denied the qadr of Allah. He denied that that Allah creates evil. He denied that we cannot change our decree. Okay? Also, after him, there was another man named Ghalan ibn Muslim from Damascus. And all this is when Islam was spreading. He studied under Mabad. And he also took up the cause of free will until he was brought before Umar ibn Abdul Aziz, who was the grandson of Umar. He became the caliphate over the Muslims. And he was brought before the caliph and accused of deviating away from the true Aqidah. And so Ghalan then recanted his beliefs. But after Umar ibn Abdul Aziz died, he went back to teaching this free will stuff, that we make our own actions, that Allah doesn't create the circumstances or actions that surround us, that we do that ourselves. He went back to preaching that concept after Umar ibn Abdul Aziz died. And just to give you guys a little history, Umar ibn Abdul Aziz was the grandson of Umar. He was also the son of Ibn Umar, and who married the milkmaid. The story I did to you guys of the milkmaid, the young girl who spoke up against her mother who was watering down the milk, and Umar married her to his son. Well, this is their grandchild. He became the caliph. Okay? And as this began to spread throughout the Muslim lands, this denial of the decree of Allah, that we have our own free will, and so we have the ability to create our own circumstances. We have the ability to create our own devices and all of that. This philosophy led to people reinterpreting the Quran in a bad way, and also many people openly denying the attributes of Allah, such as his seeing and his hearing. And this was promoted then by a man named Jaham bin Safwan until he was killed. But to this day, this philosophy has spread throughout the world. And even today, we have Muslims, the Mu'tazila, who are from this group, that believe in free will, that our free will is not inclusive of Allah or any of that. Okay, so that's a brief review of the beginning of this innovation, this deviation away from understanding the names of Allah as the companions did. We have to understand that the early generation of Muslims, they resisted the growth of bid'ah or innovation, because they lived closer to the time of the companions. This is why Allah says in the Quran, the best of this nation were the first 3 generations, and the best of them was the first generation. Okay? So during their time, they didn't allow people, to openly innovate. Okay? They used the evidence from the Quran and the Sunnah as the proof. And if it wasn't in the Quran or the Sunnah, then they were trained, and they trained their students to stay away from that. And also they reinforced the capital punishment. For example, Allah tells us the punishment for fornication is 80 lashes. The punishment for adultery, is death and all of that. So the companions, and the first 3 generations of Muslims, they enforced the Quran and the Sunnah. Whereas as Islam began to spread throughout the non-Muslim world, these people who were Christians or pagans embraced Islam, and they deviated away from the true belief system. And so then, in the later generations, the leaders, the corrupt rulers, after the companions died out, the corrupt rulers played a role in the demolish of the true understanding of Allah's names and attributes. The leaders of the people supported and encouraged research into philosophy and rhetoric. And they even began to kill the people of the Sunnah for opposing the innovation. So, as you can see, it's crept up on us. And that's why the prophet said, the best of this nation are the first 3 generations, and then Islam will become more and more distinct, more and more distant. And we see that we are the current generation of Muslims, and look how far away we are from the true Sunnah. Look at how we innovate. Look at how we deviate. Look at how we don't practice this religion right. We're introducing birthdays. We have introduced birthdays and other acts of worship into this religion. We have introduced a lot of innovation. We've introduced Islamic theology when there is no such thing as Islamic theology. So we're the worst. There's more innovation during our time than ever. Okay, and it's going to continue to increase as our children grow and their children and so forth until when the day of judgment comes, there will not be a true believer on this earth at all. Even though everyone living will claim to be Muslim, but none of them will be believers when that last hour comes. So this is a shame, but this is the way it is. So the corrupt rulers, after the companions died out, they continued to add to the deviation away from Islam and its truthfulness, because instead of them opposing innovation, they supported it. They wanted to keep up with the West, keep up with the growth in other countries. Instead of basing their laws on the Quran and the Hadiths alone, they began to adopt many laws and rules of the Western countries and all of that, as we see today. Also, another reason as to why true belief in Islam and true belief in Allah's names and attributes have disappeared, or has become distorted, is because of decentralization. Remember, the early generation of Muslims, they stood behind their leader. They had one ruler over the Muslim world, a caliph. Okay? And the early community of Muslims was centralized around Medina. The Sunnah was standardized in Medina. And the students of Medina were sent to other parts of the world to call the people to Islam. Okay? And while this was going on, the affairs of the people were one. They were united. The people of the Sunnah, they didn't allow people to bring in, leaders to bring in innovations. They tried to stick to the way of the first four righteous leaders, Abu Bakr, Umar, Uthman, and Ali. But after the Umayyad dynasty gained the reins of power, internal pressures and sectarian resistance grew in the Muslim lands. The Persians emerged from out of Persia, and they began to contribute to complex political actions that were not based on the Sunnah, partly because they were resisting Arabic favoritism. And then as Islam spread throughout North Africa, the North African countries became a Muslim. Egypt, Algeria, Morocco, Tunisia, all those countries became under Muslim rulership, but there was a lot of Arabic favoritism and all that Arabic superiority that still exists today, unfortunately. So all of this destroyed the true belief system. All of this led to introducing new ideas or new ideologies into Islam that contradict the Quran and the Sunnah. Okay? Also, another contribution to the decline of true understanding of Allah's names and attributes was people began to abandon seeking knowledge of the religion. Instead, they became like they are today, focused on degrees, PhDs in psychology, PhDs in philosophy, or going to college, just, getting degrees so you can get a better job. They put it just like today, there's more emphasis put on going to college to get a degree so you can get a job than emphasis put on learning your religion. You don't have to have a degree in Islam because a degree doesn't make you a scholar. A hikmah is a gift that only comes from Allah, and He only gives it to whom He chooses. So you can get a degree, a PhD in Islam, and it doesn't mean nothing. Just ask the leader of the Gay Muslim Society of America. He's got a PhD from Medina, but he still don't know that Allah made Eve and not Steve. Okay? The early generation of Muslims were closer to the origins of knowledge. The companions lived during the revelations, and their successors, who were the second generation, they learned what the companions learned. And then their followers and students, the third generation, they documented, wrote everything down, organized. Okay, and those that came afterwards began to abandon the religion, began to abandon the true revelations. Okay. And as Islam continued to spread throughout the world, the Muslim community spread it and absorbed increasing numbers of other nations and their cultural beliefs. As Islam, for example, spread throughout the whole continent of Africa, it went from North Africa all the way down to the tip of Africa. Many of those countries converted to Islam, and they became Islamic countries, but they kept some of their pagan rituals, like worshiping the dead, like calling upon the jinn for help, calling upon spirits. Okay, the same as Islam spread throughout the European part of the world. People brought in their own practices, cultural practices, which helped to corrupt the true belief system. And we didn't have a caliph, a leader, to stop this. So the people began to abandon seeking knowledge of Islam. It wasn't a priority. Today, the priority is a secular education, and people think that they can teach themselves, that they can just listen to lectures on the internet and that's learning Islam, or they can go buy a book, a hadith book, and just read it and all of a sudden have this great knowledge or understanding of Islam, when that's not how it works. So all these factors contributed to the decline. And then we had our 4 imams. The 4 imams, they came after the companions and their successors, and they tried to uphold the Sunnah, but they were only a few men, and they were persecuted for that. Listen to what Imam Shafi said. He said, my ruling in regards to people who base everything on theological rhetoric is that they should be beaten with palm leaves and shoes, and they should be marched amongst the kinfolk and the tribes, with it being announced, this is the reward of those who abandons the Quran and the Sunnah and turns to theology instead. But these 4 imams, they were persecuted for that. Okay, remember the hadith that we went over in our hadith class, whereas the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, before he died, he looked at his companions and he said, people will come and they will either replace you or you will end up following them. And the companion said, who? What people? And he pointed to Salman al-Farsi. He said, his people. Either they will replace you or you will end up following them. The 4 imams were from Persia mostly. Okay? They weren't Arabic. Only one was. Imam Shafi was Arabic. But the rest of the 4 imams, guys, were Persians. They were from Persia. Oh, they weren't Arabic. But they came and tried to instill the Quran and the Sunnah. Some of the people followed them, as the Prophet said, and these men end up replacing many of the Arabs in their understanding of the religion. Because as the Islam spread from out of Arabia to these other parts of the world, people went to these other parts of the world and ended up adapting their practices. Okay, like we see today, Arabs come to America and become westernized to the point where if you ask a little Arabic child what's the difference, what is a hadith, they can't tell you. You ask them what's the difference between a hadith and a fatwa, they don't know, But you ask an American Muslim that, and they'll tell you the answer. So that's what the Prophet meant by that hadith. Either you will follow them or they will replace you. Well, the 4 imams replaced them, and a lot of people follow them to this day. In fact, the Arabic countries have adapted one of those 4 Mathabian way of thinking. Okay. So, subhanallah. But when these 4 imams came, they tried to fight against all the bid'ah. They tried to stop it, but they were persecuted. Listen to what Imam Abu Hanifa said to his son about the people who deal with theology and people who manipulate the meaning of the names of Allah. He said they are from amongst those who you will see that they used to be one word and one religion until Shaitan came between them. So now you find amongst them enmity and differing. So stay upon what is true. Stay upon what is clear. And that's why I'm always telling you guys, the lawful and the unlawful has been clearly defined to us by Allah. And that's something that Abu Usama at-Tahabi was speaking about in his little lecture today, too. As Muslims, you got all these different opinions we hear from people, but we stay with that which is clear, that which has been clearly defined. That's what we stay upon. We stay away from these ideologies. We stay away from these theories. We just deal with what is clearly defined by Allah or his Prophet, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And that's what Abu Hanifa was telling the people to do. Okay? So in short, guys, all these factors contributed to the deviation that exists today away from Islam and its truthfulness. And the spread of deviation in understanding the true belief system is due to people no longer praising the companions, the first three generations. People no longer studying or learning about them. People no longer knowing about them. Okay? That's why here at this website, as Sunnahfollowers, our dawah is focused on Tawheed and the Sunnah. Quran wa Sunnah. Okay? Also, it's an obligation for us as Muslims to defend the true Tawheed. Defend what it truly means to believe in the oneness of Allah. This is why I'm trying to get you all as students to learn how to express yourselves correctly. That's why when I give you the quizzes, I want you to explain your answers, because we're obligated to defend the true understanding of Tawheed, the true understanding of our Lord, because that's what the companions did. That's how they preserved it for at least for three generations. Okay? Then after they died out, it was no longer preserved. And today, in these times of growing tribulations, the way of the praised generations, those first three, and understanding the names and attributes of Allah is the benchmark, for us. This is what makes us stand apart from the other Muslims. You listen to a person like Abu Usama at-Tahabi, the way he speaks, the way he answers questions. Then you listen to me, the way I speak, the way I answer questions, and you see the similarity. You say, oh my God, they sound alike, except he's male, she's female. Because we're trying to preserve and keep the Sunnah. We're protectors of the Sunnah. You listen to a person like Sheikh Morsi. When he speaks about Islam, you listen to a person like Sheikh Atli. You say, oh my God, it's all about Quran wa Sunnah with them. It's always what Allah said. It's always what the Prophet said. Because we're protectors. We're protectors of the Sunnah. We are that handful, inshallah, that handful of believers that will always try to uphold the teachings of the Prophet with the understanding of the best of our predecessors. Okay? As Imam Malik said, he said, nothing will rectify the last of this nation except that which rectified the beginning of this nation. In other words, nothing will save the last of us except the same tools that saved the first of us. And that is the Quran. And that is the Sunnah, the Hadiths. You people here at my website, my students, you should become and be protectors of the Sunnah to carry on when I die, when Sheikh Morsi dies. You guys carry on the banner of trying to preserve Islam in its truthfulness with that understanding of the companions. Okay, so that's just a brief reason as to how we've gotten to this point. We're further away from the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and his generation. We've allowed outside influences, corrupt leaders, other belief systems to infiltrate our way of life. And now we've become distorted. Our way of life is distorted. It's based on a lot of innovation and mistruths. Okay? All right. So I'm going to stop right here for today. And inshallah, I'll let you guys know Ramadan is about a week or so away. I usually begin my Ramadan prep series a week before Ramadan. So I might have to put this class on the shelf for right now. and go right into fasting, because I want to prepare you for Ramadan. And then as Ramadan comes in, all my lectures in this class will focus on the rules of fasting, because inshallah, I want to help you get through each day of fasting. If you stay tuned in to me and my website, we'll fast and get through each day together. So this could possibly be the last of this topic until after Ramadan, but I'll send out an email letting you guys know later on tonight. Okay, so subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilaik. Are there any questions or comments?
Recording stopped.
Yeah,
so Sister Layla, assalamu alaikum. So this is why I hear them saying Islam will come into, it will seem strange. It's because of all of this infiltration of tangling up everything in this religion. Is that why?
Exactly.
It's coming straight. I can tell.
It's already strange. It already happened. Birthdays is, if the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam were living today, he'd have a fit, because right before he died, he told us, "Don't do to me what they did to my brother Jesus." And I'll be darned, these Muslims have made a so-called Muslim calendar and put the Prophet's birthday on there and celebrate. So it's already strange. If one of those companions were to come back to this world, they'd be like, what is going on? These people ain't Muslims. Umar would say, kill them all, execute them all one by one. Yeah, it's sad. But that's what's meant by that. The religion will become distorted, and it will change from its original clarity and beauty to what we have today, with people giving their opinion as to what's lawful and what's unlawful and all that nonsense. It didn't exist in the time of the companions, because they set the record straight. Subhanallah.
Even if you like if you're talking to another Muslim sometime, and of course they're taking classes with somebody else, and then they're like, well, where did you get that from? So, you say, okay, well, just give me a minute. I'll get where I got it from, the hadith or the Quran, or it's a sunnah or whatever. I would give it to you. Yes. But even if you go back to tell them, they like, you ain't on the right path.
Yeah, they don't want to hear it. That's just the way that we are, that messed up nation. And we fight and kill each other over the religion. Look how that little boy kept coming in here all week. He's banned here. He's the reason why y'all don't see him sitting up in here is because we banned him. I don't know, I haven't looked on, I forgot I got my little thing going. Let me look on my little camera and see. I haven't even checked to see what's going on in there on YouTube. But I don't think he's been back, because I think Ifty banned him on YouTube, and we banned him here in our server yesterday. But look how he was a Muslim coming here just harassing us with, it's haram to do yoga, and because he didn't know his religion, just kept harassing us. We're killing each other, oppressing each other, and everything else. Subhanallah. Yeah, any other questions or comments? Yeah, and if I do start the Ramadan special, like I said, I'll let you guys know. I'll have to decide it tonight, because we got 7 days, and I usually do a 7-day prep, and then for the whole month I continue on with it. Yes, Beth.
What's really helping, since I've been coming on this site. And now, even closer I get, I'm not lonely for human flesh. It's the people many of the people, Muslims, that I have known for years and years. And to them, it's like they're looking at me like, what's wrong with you? Or what's happening to you, or the things that you tell them. Even the simple things.
Exactly.
The people that be on YouTube and this and that, and you don't have no proof of that. You don't have no this. It's like they angry with you. They're withdrawing. I feel them like people I have known for years. Totally withdrawing from me. And it's new. This is people that I have, ever since I've been a Muslim, most of them I've known since then, and they're looking at me like, what is going on with her? Like I have some kind of plague or something.
Yeah, because you're staying away from all that fitna, that innovation and stuff. That's the stranger, like Jamila was saying. That's the hadith of how Islam becomes strange. And good tidings to the stranger. Everybody look at us like we're the crazy ones. We're fanatic. We're strange, because we're trying to live, correctly, and they're not. Sad. Anybody else? Go ahead.
But what gets me is that they look at you like you've done something, and they say, well, she's a religious fanatic because she doesn't do the same thing we do.
Exactly.
That's not how we were taught. No, that's
exactly, because we're not having sex out of wedlock and drinking and doing drugs and partying and all that stuff. We're the ones that's weird. Oh, she thinks she's better than us. Yeah, I am better than you. I don't think it. I know it. Because that stuff was against y'all religion too. The 10 Commandments was in all the books of Allah. You the one that violate the 10. That's why I tell people at my job, you the one that violate the 10 Commandments, not me. So I am better than you. Without a doubt. I don't think I'm better than you. I know it. And I'm proud to say it. Hello.
You don't even say anything about Omar Sullivan or any of those people that he associated with and stuff like that. They look at you like, what do you mean? There's nothing wrong with that brother. That brother know the Sunnah. That brother know the Sunnah. This is things that people are, saying to me. If that was true, why is that guy walking around? Why is that other guy walking around if he did those things that they said he did? And, it's just like...
They're ignorant. He's walking around because he paid the money. You can just Google it. They ignorant. This stuff is in the news. These brothers, this rape and stuff is in the news. Are they? But Muslims are stupid. Like Allah says, we're ignorant. You can Google this stuff is on CNN News. It ain't our fault that you dumb and you live in a cave. Yeah, he did it. And he paid the money to get out of it. That's why he walking around. He got people to drop charges. That's why he walking around. Happens every day when you got money. But you only think the white man is capable of doing it. You don't think Muslims are capable of doing that too? Happens every day. So did you tell them people they're ignorant? Yeah, they did. Ain't nobody made it up. It's in the news. That person's ignorant and don't know it. It's in the news. Read the newspapers. We're stupid. That's what the Prophet meant with this nation. We're just ignorant. We don't read. We're stupid. Want to live in a cave somewhere. Even the non-Muslims know what people do because they read the news. Why is he walking around? Paid the money. If you had money, you'd have got your son out of the jail for being a doper. Hello. These people got money. I'm just speaking in general. This ain't nothing new. You can buy a judge. You can pay a family off. Look what Michael Jackson did. Look at all the stuff he did. He paid off the family too. Look at R.J. Kelly. This ain't new. Muslims can do the same thing, especially these people they talking about. Them brothers are millionaires. They do the same thing R.J. Kelly did. Same thing Michael Jackson did. And all you got to do is read the newspaper because they made the news. Ain't nobody making up nothing on these people. This stuff is real. Probably an African American too, unfortunately. Tell that person to learn how to read. Yeah. Any other questions or comments? Yeah, I don't like that. When it comes to abuse, guys, I take that serious. I don't like nobody to defend a rapist. I'm sorry. And to rape our young Muslim girls, and you're stupid and you want to defend a person that's been found guilty of that because you live in a cave or you're uneducated and can't read or you're blind. I don't like that. I get passionate about anyone taking advantage of a Muslim kid, a girl. Rape ain't nothing to sit around and try to justify. So I don't know who these people are, but they must live in a cave because the rest of the world know what's going on.
And just because somebody know about the Sunnah, that brother knew about the Sunnah. That brother talks about the Sunnah.
Yeah, well, Shaitan know more than that brother. Why don't you tell him that? Shaitan knows that Quran better than most people, but he's still going to be in the hellfire. So ask that idiot, it was Shaitan, is he going to be, is he a good person too? Because he's more educated than most of these Muslims today. In fact, I'd say almost all of them. But he's still Shaitan. See, ignorant people like that make me angry because they're just stupid. And you want to defend somebody, a rapist, because you don't read or can't read because you come from the hood? Educate yourself. Yeah, I'm sorry. I get passionate about rights like that. I mean, that's just... In a Muslim country, these people be executed. But thank God in a Muslim country, they would be executed. But living in America, only in America. Only in America. If you got the money, you can get out of anything in America. Don't that person know that? Ignorance. Yeah, any other comments? Okay, guys, so like I said, I'll let you guys know if we go into, which I think I will probably have to do, go into the series on Ramadan prep. I'll send out some emails. And by the way, the time change, my classes will still be at 6 and 9 and 11. But I will check with Mukhtar and Dr. Asim because they may want to change the time of their classes because of the mosque. I know Mukhtar probably will. So I'll let you guys know. If I got to change the schedule around, I'll do that. Okay, so today is Sunday. I got my Hadith class at 11. Feel free to join us in the Zoom room. I did broadcast Abu Usama. That's the only lecture he had, the last one. But what I'm going to do, Sheikh Atlee gave those dynamite lectures on his tour. For those of you listening to me on Facebook and YouTube and Instagram and Twitter, I'm going to log out to reboot my computer, and I'm going to go and get me a coffee before Starbucks close. Then what I'm going to do is log back in, and I'm going to play all of Sheikh Atlee's lectures that he gave this weekend from beginning to the end, because I'm telling you, that was some dynamic stuff he talked about. And I'm going to also throw in Abu Usama at the end too, the lecture he just gave the day too. Okay, for those of you who may have missed it. Okay, yeah, so just check our schedule. For those of you who are on YouTube, I post a schedule in the community department. For those of you on Facebook and other platforms, look at our Sunnahfollowers page, because the only people I'm broadcasting here is Sheikh Kareem Abu Zaid, of course, Sheikh Morsi, Sheikh Atlee, and Abu Usama. That's it. I like their lectures because their lectures are based on the Quran. Of course, Sheikh Atlee helps run his website, but But the other two brothers, their lectures are always based on Quran wa Sunnah. So I like to play their stuff here or have them live here when I'm Abu Usama was live. Those questions he answered, three of those questions came from you guys here. So I'm always playing them live. But when I log back in, I'm going to play Sheikh Atlee stuff from front to back so you can get caught up on whatever you missed from his Ramadan tour in Florida, okay?
I heard one of them this morning. I listened to one of them this morning.
Yeah, his stuff is good. Yeah, I'm going to play them all because I said, but the Sheikh Atlee did some good talks, man. Real good. He's always good at this type of stuff. MashaAllah. So I'm going to play them all. A lot of sisters will tell me they wanted to hear them all over again. So I'm going to run them as soon as I get back from getting me a Starbucks. Okay. All right, guys. So for those of you on social media, I'm getting ready to close.